back to the 2000s tour featuring the Union Underground, Soil, Raw, and Flaw set to kick off in March 2024, just merely weeks away at this point. I've got Bryan Scott from Union Underground here with me. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, George. Nice to have you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, my friend. Sometimes the best place to find bands, up and coming bands, and a place to put bands on the map as well, is something like being featured on a WWE game, any video game really, or being one of the main entrances and theme songs to one of the shows. You guys had the pleasure of that happening to you guys for Across the Nation, your single. It was the theme song to Raw on Monday nights for the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that come about?
Yeah, it was Raw was, I think it was a theme song for almost 5 years, so it went on for a long time. We started, so there was a compilation that I believe it was Sony Music originally that put that together, and man, there's a lot of bands on that. So they approached everyone about taking specific wrestlers and then covering their theme songs. And so that's what everyone was doing, is kind of taking the songs that already existed and covering them and kind of just doing their own version of it. But I listened to the song that they sent over, and I just thought, I want to take the bass line. I thought the bass line was cool. It had a cool groove to it. But I thought the lyrics of the theme, kind of didn't really fit the Union thing. And it's like, well, you know what? Let me ask these guys if I can just take a bit of the groove of the music and just write a new song around it, not using any of the lyrics from the theme or any of that thing. And they actually agreed to it, which was cool, because I didn't want to just cover the theme, so it ended up being, basically a very Union Underground sounding song, as opposed to us just kind of covering a theme for the record. So it was really cool that they allowed us to kind of take the reins and just go out of the box like that, because it ended up being, definitely a fan favorite of ours,
And you'll be performing this on the tour as well, right? Hopefully.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So very quickly, my friend, who's your favorite wrestler?
Well, what's funny, like before we even did the track for that record, and we did one of the WWE Raw, like Monday Night Live things in Anaheim, the huge arena events they would have. We played one of those things. Prior to that, I had no idea who any of these wrestlers were at all, So I kind of got introduced to all those guys, at that event. Since then, I know absolutely nothing about wrestling. Yeah.
Hey, you know what, man?
Yeah.
It's something that you either get interested in growing up, and you kind of like tag along and kind of pay attention every once in a while. It's
You know what? When I was a kid, I definitely had babysitters, as we all had in the day, right? And like mom goes off to work, and like they just watched wrestling all day. So, I was exposed to it very early on,
Yeah, me and my cousins, we'd always have these little brawls in the basement and whatever like that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Back to the 2000s tour. You guys will be on this Soil, Raw, Flaw. Let's talk about how this all came together. It's going to be what an excellent masterpiece on stage. Talk about it, man. This is cool.
Yeah, it is cool. We Tim and I from Soil had been talking about trying to put something together for the last 2-3 years, and it's timing. There's a lot of moving parts with this stuff, and we finally got to a place where, like, hey man, this year it makes sense. And he pitched me the idea about the Back to the 2000s theme, and kind of just having a theme around the tour like that, and I thought it was kind of cool. I like the kind of the nostalgia factor, but you know, it is an opportunity also to introduce a new generation of people to the band. Um, so, but the focus will be at the shows to play all of our first records in their entirety, and then pepper some new stuff around it. And for us specifically, we're going to do Rebellion in its entirety, and then Across the Nation, of course, and a few new songs that no one's heard yet, and that will be on the new record. So that'll be a cool treat for everyone to kind of finally hear some new stuff from us.
Well, that's awesome, man. Announcing right here that there's a new record in the works, new stuff. If you go see
Yeah.
them on tour this coming March and beyond, uh, the band formed in 1996. Can you share a bit about the band's journey up until now? Like, how did they come together, and what have you guys been up to besides getting ready for this tour and writing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Union isn't my only project musically. I have a band called Cult to Follow too that I've been focusing on for years. And so that, I always knew that Union Underground at some point would be something that I would revisit when I had, the songs that I thought were right for it. And that came to be in the last few years, just working on new music. But I thought for sure, like these have to be Union Underground songs. So, but as far as our initial, God, 96, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I guess we did kind of start, we had some weird version of it, that far back. Put out a self-titled EP in like 98, and that actually had some of the songs from Rebellion on it, like kind of different arrangements and things like that. But so we toured, we put out Rebellion and toured for several years, and that camp we just kind of got to a place where we just creatively just kind of hit a wall, which seems crazy when you've only made one record, right? But I think there's a lot of time prior to your first record that people don't realize that. Like, there's a lot of time spent before the world knows about you. So the camp had been together for a long time prior to the world knowing about it. But I mean, sometimes things come to a close, and it was just kind of time to move on. And I knew that at some point I would want to revisit it when the time is right. And the time is right. And have fantastic musicians in the band at the moment, and I'm excited about the new record.
The time is now, you mean? The time is right and right now.
Yeah.
1996, like, just thinking about it, probably you feel old. I feel old. I remember where I was in 1996. I was in like senior kindergarten or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember writing 1996 on like a, beside my name and the date, whatever like that. And talking about time shifting and whatever like that, and you've navigated through shifts in the music industry, obviously. What advice would you give to aspiring musicians today?
It's the landscape has changed so much, man, from when I was first getting started in the business. There's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of drawbacks. I mean, now there's so many avenues and so many platforms, and technology has made it to where anyone that owns a laptop and has some tenacity and some talent can put a record out, and I think there's a plus and minus to that. I For the artist, it's a plus. Sometimes for the listener, I think you don't get the best quality you probably could being in the new environment. If anyone can just, it's like getting on Netflix, right? It's the same thing. You can anyone that can with the camera and some ideas can make a film, doesn't mean it's going to be good. I mean, back in the day, it's the same with music, but you can get it out to the world, and that's a cool thing for most people. But I think for the audience, sometimes they suffer a bit with quality versus quantity. You know,
I fully agree with
back in the
you.
day, you couldn't just the amount of shit you had to endure and prove to the world before your record ever hit the radio was monumental. You know, now, anyone can just throw it up from their laptop on Spotify, and there they are. They're available to the world. Now, it probably won't see the light of day for majority of them, but it's yeah, there's plus and minuses. I mean, it's 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 a very different world. I kind of miss how much you had to go through to be known to the world. You know,
Yeah,
it it
absolutely.
kind of it kind of it kind of it kind of it builds character for sure. You know,
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, like sometimes the quality is not there. The musicianship is not there. Of course, people are putting together some great compositions, and it's just not something they could pan out live. It's sometimes more
yeah,
fabricated. Like I really like raw music, stuff that's like got more feel, and like that's why I like rock music and alternative and metal and whatever, because it's authentic, right? You know,
yeah,
sometimes there's some like digitized drums or studio musicians that come in and help you out, but um you know you're known for blending alternative metal, sorry, or and industrial rock elements. How would you describe the evolution of your musical style, personally, with Cult to Follow and the future of the Union Underground, and how your influence shaped that?
um, I you know I really have kind of an eclectic collection of influences. I mean, I listen to everything from I love old '70s kind of Zeppelin and um, more laid back stuff like Tom Petty and those, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a huge fan of just kind of classic '70s stuff. Um, but and I also love. I'm a huge fan of '90s music, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Um, those things, those like that. The '90s really influenced me in a kind of lyrical sense, like more as a singer. But some of the '70s and '80s stuff, like, and the '70s was kind of before my time. But like once I got older and I was playing guitar, I like to revisit older things, and find out why it was so impactful, right? And man, I just love old Zeppelin stuff, the Eagles, Tom Petty, all that stuff. I mean, it's just the songwriting is just so fantastic, and and just organic, and I don't really follow a lot of new stuff. Like even if even on this new record, I mean, there's a lot of kind of modern elements on some of it, but I wouldn't know what to equate it to because I just really don't follow a lot of modern metal stuff, at all. I tend to stick to the classics as far as just my listening preference, you know.
Absolutely. Who are your favorite guitarists, for example? Who's someone that you look up to? And you're right; it's really authentic. The rock from the past is so authentic, and that's why I think guys like Maynard James Keenan, like he can stand his
Hmm.
ground. He's so real and raw, like we talked about earlier. But who are some of your favorite guitar players? Mine is Eddie Van Halen, right across the board. Um,
Wow, yeah. I mean that's kind of yeah. I mean, I can. I remember having one of the old Walkmans, right, as a kid, and I had Screaming for Vengeance and Van Halen 1. Those are the only two cassettes that I owned, and I just listened to them endlessly. And I just remember thinking that that Eddie Van Halen it was so beyond just sonically and just the plant what everyone was doing. It was fantastic. I mean, it just had such a feel beyond what everything else I heard was doing, you know. Eddie Van Halen is definitely one of them. I'm a big, but I love just kind of blues, kind of rock players too. Like I'm a huge Slash fan. I love Slash, you know. Um, I like guys like Jeff Beck, you know, going way back. And I mean, you know, the guitar player thing's endless, but I lean more towards the the bluesier side of guitar playing. Like I'm not really into shredder guys and stuff. Although I do love like classic Yngwie Malmsteen records are that first record's phenomenal. I mean, you know. But then I think all that shredding stuff just got kind of homogenized and you know, and these days too, you have no idea, you know, with all the editing capabilities. I mean, you have no idea like who's really playing, you know, what their playing abilities really are, especially with that guitar stuff. It's like you can edit it all and it's just, it all sounds the same to me, you know?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. You know, I had a chance to see like this G3 or G4 show with like Tasson Abasi, Zach Wild, Steve Vai, and then the
Yeah.
headliner was Yngwie Malmsteen. Yeah, I can handle it, but like really don't like it. You know, it's just like
It's,
it's so like
it's,
overdriven and repetitive and whatever. So yeah, you can play fast or whatever, but you know, like you want a guy with feel. Like I feel like Jimmy Page is one of the guys that has some feel. Somebody who's
mhm.
overlooked is Johnny Winter. You know,
I love Johnny Winter. Yeah.
yeah, man. And you know, there's so many guitar players who just got overlooked. Who was
You
one
know what?
musician? One.
I have sorry to cut you off. I have a cover of Frankenstein um, that I've had sitting on my computer for several years that I need to eventually leak to the world because it's actually pretty cool. Because you know, at heart, I mean, I am a guitar player, you know, and I have actually several instrumentals that I've never released, but I have a cover of that, um, which is kind of interesting, you know. I'm glad you brought that up because I haven't dug that up in a long time. I'll have to revisit that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Hey man, you know what? I
He's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, is someone I discovered because I'm you know I'm only 35 at this point, right? But so like when I was reading Guitar World back when I was 10 years old, there's one guy that is always overlooked, and this Johnny Winter. And he just showed a picture of
Yeah.
this man sitting in a chair in front of a couple thousand people. So
Yeah.
just show up and play, and got really into him, man. And I'm really excited to hear what else you got compositions on there or covers or whatever. I would just keep releasing them because people do enjoy them and whatever. So it's just it's something. Music connects people, connects the masses. And how have you engaged your fans over the last few years? And have you grown any good relationships with your fans, or what's something special that you guys have a bond with? Let's talk about some great fan moments that you remember.
You know what? I really try to stay, you know, especially these days with social media, like I try to stay as engaged as possible. I mean, I respond a lot to comments and I really take the time to you know, make sure that people know that I see them. You know, I think that's important, you know. And I get a lot of response to it too, like, hey man, we appreciate the effort you put into this. And that's nice that, you know, people recognize that. Um God, man, I mean, you know, over the year, I mean, just touring and stuff, there's amazing moments with people. You know, I mean, it's endless. It's really, it's impossible to kind of pick one, you know. I mean, it's just everyone's when you're playing live and you're doing a meet and greet and you're just kind of meeting people and hanging out and it's nice to be able to do. And on this run is this back to the 2000s, we're going to be doing you know, venues that are the size that cater to that. We'll definitely be hanging out with everybody, and I enjoy that. You know, it can be, you know, um, it can be really an opportunity to connect with people where you just wouldn't like. I don't like to like just do a show and go to the bus and split. Like, I mean, I like to talk to people, and I like to know what moves them about what we're doing, and it's a learning experience for me as well to talk to fans. You know,
And this is one of the things that, you know, for it's kind of bad saying this, but it is also good. The pandemic that just happened, it's bringing a lot of these bands, these bigger bands, to smaller venues. So it's forcing them to be with the people, and that's what I love, man. It's getting you back down to the same level that people actually want to see. Like I'm going to see Red Hot Chili Peppers in the summertime. It's not in a big arena. It's in like a very small venue. Yeah, every ticket's like through the roof, but it's worth it, right? People enjoy that
yeah,
more. It's more intimate and whatever. And yeah, like you guys can go through the crowd, have grab a drink, whatever you guys have to do, and maybe people come up to you. You can take some pictures. People like to buy merch when you're there. I'm like Five
yeah,
Finger Death Punch, where they're never there, but they want to sell you the same shirt for $75. Um,
yeah.
Bryan, this has been great, man. This is called Meet Me for Coffee. We're brewing conversations over coffee. Do you drink coffee?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My usual morning brew is called Ruta Maya, if you're familiar with that.
No.
I like to grind my own beans and you know do it from scratch, and yeah, it's really good. And it might be a regional thing only. I'm not even sure because I'm down here in Texas, so it might just be a regional thing. Because I've asked a couple of other people if they're familiar with it, and they said no. So who knows?
Well, I'll have to check that out. Thank you for coming on
Yeah,
the show.
Ruta Maya. Yeah,
Ruta Maya. Yeah, man. I'm gonna have to really check this out. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy getting things ready for this tour. Of course,
yeah,
trying to spend all the time with your family as possible before you guys
yeah.
leave. I understand that as well. I appreciate you. I wish you all the best on tour, and I hope to talk to you once again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Roger.